Yes.
Hello. Bonjour. Bonsoir.
Bonjour. Bonjour. You can see Gemma and I are pretty
Delirious.
Yeah, pretty delirious, pretty exhausted after a really big day at INCOS, and we're that exhausted we can't even work out whether we actually have managed to go live, but we have. So bonjour from Paris. We're at the end of day 2 of InCosmetics Global, which has been really interesting and really good so far. So there's one more day to go, but we thought while we were together in our very Parisian apartment, which we're not doing very well at sort of showcasing here on the video.
Might give you a tour at the
end. Yeah, have a little tour. We thought we would come on and give you the highlights of InCosmetics Global. Hi Mohammed, I hope you're okay. It would be really cool to give you the highlights of InCosmetics Global so far. So both of us have attended loads and loads of presentations today. I've done all the marketing ones, Gemma's done some marketing ones, and you did
a few sustainability ones.
Sustainability ones.
It's a big buzzword, as we know, Rachel.
Yeah, so we thought we'd bring you those. The overarching kind of theme that's come out of the talks we've both been to has been sustainability. This seems to be the real talking point that almost every presentation is going at. And actually it's not, and it's what they're trying to tell us is that sustainability isn't a buzzword. They're trying to make us look at sustainability and as an industry telling us that we've got a real responsibility to really do something about sustainability across all of our sort of supply chain in a really big way. And we thought we'd just chat about that. So put comments in. I can see some people are joining us, and if you're going to watch this on catch up, you can still put comments in, because tag me and Gemma in, because we'll answer things if you've got any questions about any of the content that we talk about. So I'll kick off by saying at the beginning of the day I went to a talk that was by Seymour Powell, who are a big agency, London-based agency, who basically do sort of future predictions, I guess. They were talking about the fact that sustainability is definitely something that brands need to be sort of focusing in on.
Aware of and acting upon.
Yeah, and ingredients, so sustainability and ingredients came up.
Yeah. So I think basically one of the big things across the whole day is sustainability's kind of weaved its way into every conversation. It's on every stand that you look at. But I think the big thing that we've just been discussing and we've picked out is that it's really now a time to start acting upon some of that. Yeah. So I think so far, you know, it's not new news that we're coming on here and saying that sustainability is the big trend. But really the clear message from the last few days has been, what's the so what? Like, what are you going to do to act upon that? And we've kind of broken it down into 3 different areas. So one of them was ingredients. So obviously, you know, it's an ingredients trade fair that we've been to, so this is quite an obvious one to look at. So I guess the first bit is around the continued dialogue around like clean, natural and organic. What does that mean? What are the definitions? But more importantly, how does that link into the brand being sustainable? So you went to a talk with Formula Botanica.
Oh yeah. I went and saw Lorraine, director of Formula Botanica. Did an absolutely really awesome talk, which was quite challenging actually, and it was around that concept of sort of what does natural and organic mean, and she was saying that there are 2 quite polarized sides to this, which is that, you know, there are the lovers and there are the haters if we make it completely simple. And what she was encouraging is that actually that's not the dialogue that we should be having as an industry. As an industry, we have a responsibility to face up to sustainability. It's the biggest challenge that faces us as an industry and us as a planet. And instead of within the beauty industry having these 2 sides of natural and organic versus the more sort of chemical synthetic side of things, what should be happening is the 2 parties should be meeting in the middle and actually talking about how we're going to drive this industry forwards, to give consumers what they want, but also to manage this big problem of sustainability that we're facing. So yeah, she rocked it. Lorraine, if you're watching this and catch up, you rocked it. You were totally cool.
And you said she was going over some things around looking at ingredient sourcing, as in like actually where's the ingredient come from? So how close to your production facilities is it?
Yeah.
You know, that all of these different ideas feed into how sustainable you are.
That's right. So we can all get quite caught up in using ingredients that are the new thing, the new big thing, and trying to get ahead of those curves. But if we're doing that at the the jeopardy of sustainability, because we're buying those products from hundreds and thousands of miles away and we're paying for that shipping, you know, is that really sustainable? Can we call ourselves a sustainable brand if we're doing that?
Yeah.
There are so many wonderful products that we can get hold of in our backyard, was how she referred to, as Lorraine referred to it. Can we not use those and make those more potent and make that part of our message and develop that as a more sustainable?
I feel like that's a trend kind of coming over from the food space, because there's a lot more increasing dialogue around, like, you know, you should buy seasonal vegetables, for example, because actually why are you buying your bean sprouts from Kenya or Brazil or wherever it's being imported? Why don't you buy broccoli when it's in season and you get it from Kent?
It's a bit like, we're a bit like the party, I suppose, because we had the whole, like, you know, allotment thing of everybody grow your own type stuff, and I guess it's a bit more, it is rolling in now, I think. And there is a challenge for brands there was a challenge to brands to source their products in a more sustainable way. So that was an interesting one on sustainability.
I think one of the other bits was around, like, doing more with less and, like, actually having fewer ingredients and making them work harder. And I know this is certainly a trend that we've seen across many of the skincare startups in these different communities that we're a part of. So that's great to see that actually a lot of people are really kind of acting upon that. Seymour
Powell raised that, and they were saying we're going into kind of a future where things are going to become more scarce, you know, including things as basic to us as water is. You know, we are going into a future where water will become scarce, and so as brands we also have the responsibility to look at how we're formulating and designing our brands and our products to help consumers deal with the scarcities that are coming ahead and making quite a big deal out of doing more with less. Really interesting quote. I haven't got it in front of me because it's under my camera, but I'll post it somewhere. There's a really interesting quote about the fact that we are, as a culture, as a sort of civilization now, very clean people, but yet we shower maybe once or twice a day, and we actually really don't have a need to do that. Showering, really. Washing and showering has become more associated with more maybe to do with well-being and relaxation. It's not the actual necessity of being clean that we're doing it for.
It's habitual, I guess.
So the challenge there was that as we enter this new era where basic things like water will become more scarce, as brands, how can we factor that into what we're designing? How can we get people to do more with less? How can we encourage people to use less ingredients? How can we encourage people to use less water, to shower less? And how can we build that into how we're designing both our products but our messaging, and maybe the education piece that we do as brands as well, I think was really interesting.
I think that's a great point, actually, because you know, there's a few brands already that have started to bring out products as a response to, like, waterless beauty, as we're kind of calling it. So things like face masks that might be, like, powdered and you activate them with water or serums, whatever. And actually there's quite a slow response from consumers at the moment to those products. So I think there's a lot around like engaging and really kind of like educating communities around these different factors and saying, you know, not only is it more efficacious because the ingredients are more potent and they're activated when you add the water, but actually there's a real reason why we're doing this, and it kind of starts from the top, and you know, it's driven by all these macro influences like global warming and water scarcity and stuff. And
we were just saying, weren't we, that we kind of we kind of know about global warming, and we kind of know about climate change, and we kind of know that maybe water's going to become short, but it's almost like we see it in the future. And I think everybody today in all these presentations that we've seen have been challenging us and saying, hey, it is in the future, but it needs dealing with now. And we as brands in beauty, but also in all other industries, have to wake up to that and have to start doing our bit. And I think there is a lot in the education part of that.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, the point is, if we don't necessarily understand how important this is to us, then our consumers almost certainly don't as well. So there is that point of education behind this. which is great because, guys, it gives you loads of content. You know, I'm a big content person, so you know, it gives you loads to talk about to your audience and to you know, to create content around. But I think there is a huge piece of education on this.
Massively.
Yeah.
And I guess the other point, just on ingredients and education and kind of like engaging communities, was just around. We both went to a talk at the end of the day with Euromonitor. So a lady called Hannah did the presentation, and she presented that we all know that the world of like natural and organic and clean beauty, however you define it, undoubtedly that's on the rise, and there's massive growing consumer interest in those areas. But the factor that is more important to consumers than whether it's deemed organic or natural or clean is the fact that it actually is efficacious, so it actually works. So I think that's just something to factor in, that, you know, it's not against all odds that it has to kind of tick those boxes. The number one consumer driver is actually knowing that they're going to invest into a product and have that trust that it's going to do what it says it does. And I think that's just something really great to kind of bear in mind and look at it as the overall picture on what ingredients you're using and how you're going to communicate them and really bring your consumers on that journey with you.
And she sort of said that, along the same line, she was saying that sort of she was talking about specifically about premium skincare and how that market now, that segment is being changed. And she sort of said that premium, the word premium that we've seen a lot, is actually losing its importance. And exactly the same way that green, natural, organic, you know, it's important, but it's losing some of its energy, and what it's being replaced by is proven results and efficacy. So you can have both, of course. You know, you can have green, organic, natural, but what consumers are looking for is to know that it works. So
I guess it goes back to trust, and you know, we saw about we're in the era of fake news, and you know, there's a lot of mistrust with politicians and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into Brexit because we're in Paris.
We're not mentioning the B word. They might throw us out. We might not get home. Don't say it.
Whoops. Slip of the tongue. But basically, you know, that presentation specifically was about the decline of the big old power brands that, you know, were just built around being expensive and having a long-standing reputation, and that's been replaced by brands that are efficacious, so they actually work. They've got that authentic kind of rapport with their consumers. They are building that community through content, etc. And actually that's the new way of shopping, and really it's a democratization of beauty essentially, because people are preferring to make their own decisions on what works for them and what they trust, rather than historically we've just been marketed to, and it's like we're the best brand, we've got the best TV advert, and you know, now it's kind of, there's a shift in consumers' shopping patterns, which is really interesting.
So guys, you need to talk about the fact your products work as well. I think that's a real key thing to take away from that. I mean, that's a message that I think sometimes we're a bit afraid to talk about because it feels a bit boastful maybe, or a bit, but you know, if you've got the evidence that they work and things like, even on a basic level like testimonials and
testimonials is a great example, because it's not necessarily you saying how well it works, so it's that added element of trust, but it's also not as cringe in a way.
Exactly.
You know,
it's
you're worried
easier
about kind of saying, oh, I'm amazing, I've got an amazing product.
So definitely
let someone else be your advocate.
Definitely, but you've got to get out there and you've got to start talking about the results that your products are driving, as well as your other messages, because that's actually, you know, what customers are really looking for. That's kind of like the thing that's pushing them over the line, is am I going to get the results and things like that.
So the second bit was obviously around packaging. So I guess there's going to be no surprise here that there was a lot of talk around different types of packaging that are coming out, which either remove plastic or reduce the amount of plastic being used and everything. But again, that did come back to the point around bringing the consumers in and educating them on, you know, consumers are part of the solution. So even if you have switched from plastic to glass, well, that still needs recycling, and you know, you still need to have that consumer education piece and really kind of bring them on that journey with you. So I guess that was kind of the main thing. Then there's just some examples around some brands that are kind of doing a good job. So Ren, for example, are using bottles that are 20% PCR, which is post-consumer regrind from ocean waste, and 80% from like former empty bottles. And then there's some really interesting like recycling initiatives that have come in. So I don't know if you've seen There's one that's coming called Loop, which is actually for the larger brands. So it's brands like the Procter & Gamble owned ones, like Pantene, for example.
Yeah.
So it's launching in the USA and in France. And essentially you'll get your shampoo and different beauty products. It goes across ice cream and different consumer household goods. They'll be in like metal containers, which are reusable. So they'll be branded up. You use it and then you send it back, almost like the old school kind of milk bottle.
Milk brand, yeah.
Way.
Pop bottles.
Yeah. And I think that ties into a lot of conversation around, instead of looking at things from a cradle to grave kind of mentality, there's more of a cradle to cradle mentality. And actually there's a talk with, there's a brand called The Beauty Kitchen, and their founder's called Jo Chidley. And she's doing a talk tomorrow, and that's her kind of big mission around making products sustainable, from not looking at things that are cradle to grave, but actually how can you then repurpose them or reuse them and different things like that.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting kind of
I've
ideology.
seen quite a few brands do quite interesting things like that, where you know, many of you are using glass bottles, for instance, and I've seen a couple of brands, off the top of my head, Casa Menkarali has done quite a few posts along these lines, where she's shown her consumers how they can upcycle her beautiful bottles and turn them into vases and different things. And there's another brand, and I can't remember off the top of my head, who's sort of been doing that kind of thing as well.
Well, like Upcycle, I guess.
Yeah,
so
and
the
it's just
coffee ground brand that does body scrubs. I mean, that's the ultimate kind of upcycling, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, it's still around that kind of, I think maybe we keep saying it's around the education of the consumer, which sounds like we're really lecturing consumers. So maybe education isn't the right word that we should be using here. But just talking to your consumers about different things, so being able to put posts on or create content or write blogs around ways to upcycle your stuff, ways to upcycle other brands' stuff. It's just that helping, because you don't necessarily think, oh, glass bottle, I can just put that in the recycling. But actually, you could do so much more with that. And maybe that's part of that messaging that you can get across.
I think it's about making consumers feel good about what they can do, rather than feeling bad about what they're not doing.
Absolutely.
So I listened to a podcast actually with Stella McCartney, and she's obviously been a massive kind of advocate for animal welfare, veganism, and I guess more recently, particularly within the fashion industry, like sustainable production, because obviously there's a lot of water waste in stuff like cotton farming, etc. And she did this podcast on the business of fashion, and she basically said, in order to kind of galvanise change and really engage that message and engage those consumers with you, you need to do it in a way that's accessible to them and it doesn't feel confrontational. You need to like bring them on that journey with you, and you know, praise them for what they are doing rather than kind of reprimanding them for what they're not. And I think that's a really great mentality to kind of weave into your pack copy or your website, or you know, what information can you give them on how they should recycle, and you know, all of those
and
things.
Engagement is a much better. Education is a bit of preachy, isn't it? And we're like, oh God, I want to educate, but just sort of engaging and chatting and talking and opening up that conversation about different things. Yeah, that certainly came out as something quite big, and that we have a responsibility. And actually, thinking back to last year when I was in cosmetics, I'm pretty sure I did one of these updates where I said something about brands needing to have a more educative role around some of these big issues that are coming through. So this is the second year that some of that has come through, actually. So that's really good.
Definitely.
What else did we do? We had because you know I love social media. There was a little tiny bit about social media. This isn't a social media conference, but they did talk about the way that social media is going to change in the next sort of 10 years and how that could influence beauty. The prediction from Seymour Powell is that in 10 years' time, we'll be entering a phase of sort of social media 2.0, as she called it, which will not be like the social media that we currently see. And it will be much more group-driven. So it'll be much more about creating almost safe places where your consumers and your followers and your tribe, whatever you want to call them, hang out with you and other people, other like-minded people. And so she was talking about things like Snapchat groups, WhatsApp groups. What did you talk to me about on the way back? Slack. Mohammed, are you still here? We were talking about Slack. Mohammed was the guy who asked the question in Rockstars about could we use Slack to engage beyond, not just internally but externally. And you've got a really good view on because you use Slack. I hadn't even used it. I was just aware of it.
I worked with a brand last year and used Slack, and at first I was a bit like, oh, you know, kind of what are the advantages versus something like WhatsApp. So essentially it's kind of like an instant messenger platform. You can download it onto your desktop but also have it on your phone. But I guess it's more efficient than stuff like email, so instant communication. But the great thing about it versus something like WhatsApp is it's segmented and it's self-contained. So that's, you know, that within that app it's only work chat or like chat related to your brand. It's not like your mum saying, you know, what do you want for dinner or whatever it might be. And there's different functionality, like you can add different documents on there and you can set up different channels. So it might be, you know, 2019 NPD ideas or sustainability, and you might loop in external parties like your formulator or, you know, your packaging supplier or whoever that might be. And it's just another kind of digital app that facilitates kind of efficient ways of working.
But you could potentially create groups inside it that involve members of your wider community.
Yeah, so you could have a section of super VIP members. So off your website you might have like the top tier of spenders, and you might invite them to join this exclusive
like
group.
These ideas. You can imagine what we've been talking about, guys. It's been so exciting. Yes, you could do that.
Yeah.
What else could you do?
And then they'd have direct access to you. And
you have direct access to them.
And actually, you can use that. Not only is it a great thing to make them feel great, to kind of give them that reward for being VIP, but actually, if they're your most loyal, engaged members, you can also use it as a feedback loop. So, you know, what do you want me to do differently? What do you think the next trends are? Or I've just been to this conference. We see waterless beauty as being a big trend. I'm going to release a range of waterless face masks. Yes. How does that sound to you, or how could we make it more appealing if you don't really understand the concept? You know, it's invaluable kind of advice.
And I think that sounds really exciting, because I think marketing is about creating communities. I've always felt quite powerfully about that. So the fact that we probably will see, or the prediction is, we don't know whether this is going to come true, guys, but the prediction is that we will move away from the more how we know social media now, and we will become more community group driven. So that means things like Slack and those ideas you've just given could become really important. And Slack is free, WhatsApp is free. You could test some of these ideas now. You could be some of the very first brands to go out and test these. You could maybe have add your customers in, or I'm not going to get into the realms of GDPR, so talk to your customers about it and see whether they're interested. But there's definitely scope there. But whatever you're doing, begin to think about looking at your content and your social media from a community point of view. Yeah. How can you start to develop communities?
And I think the challenge is not that many platforms that you're able to kind of cultivate and foster a community. Obviously Facebook you can.
Yeah.
But that might be personally then mixed up with if you've got your personal friends on the same profile, and you know, you might want to segment it. But, you know, even a platform like Instagram, which obviously we both love and we both spend a lot of time on it, you don't necessarily have that forum where a community can chat and have a dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, there were pods, weren't there, Instagram pods, but I don't think they worked quite that way. You want it was difficult to... I mean, we've just set up a WhatsApp group, haven't we, for all of us sort of consultants to network in, and it's a really nice way of seeing messages pop up between. But it's just a really interesting thing for you, I think, to be thinking about, and it's got us thinking about how we take our businesses forward as well, because I think it's important that we stay ahead of social media. And as indie brands, I harp on about this a lot, don't I, guys? But it's really important. As indie brands, we can stay ahead. I don't think there's many people probably in the big brands sitting there having this discussion about how they can create all these communities. They're still trying to handle how to do Instagram right, and catching up on that. So we have an opportunity as those independent brands that can be agile and make decisions quickly and to start to trial these things.
Yeah, that was like one of the things that Euromonitor picked up on, because you know they were talking about the kind of decline of the larger brands, and they showed us some data on that, and you know it really is happening that consumers are switching out of some of the big brands in favour of indie brands. You know, obviously the likes of brands like Drunk Elephant are in there, which are going to massively skew the numbers because that's a massive brand itself now. But you know, there is this consumer shift happening, and some of the drivers of that are things like, indie brands are naturally more consumer centric because they're closer to the consumer. They have that two-way dialogue. It's not just a one-way kind of preach. She obviously brought up the example of Glossier, which, you know, we know the brand well, and it's an obvious one to talk about when we talk about engagement of your consumers. But, you know, the fact that they have developed a lot of their range in conjunction with, or as a response, direct response to feedback from their consumers.
Yeah.
And that is something that the legacy brands can't compete with.
Yeah.
They can't cultivate those communities and get that authentic kind of connection. And that's something that you guys have got in your power. So really don't underestimate the power of investing your time and energy and financial investment as well into dedicating time to kind of nurture those relationships.
And actually Glossier is a really good example because I don't know if they've actually finished doing it or whether they're still in the process of doing it, but they are creating their own social media platform. They are taking themselves away from the mainstream. And they are saying, you know, thanks to Instagram and Facebook, we're going to create our own platform, our own community. So they're already there on this, and they're going into it in a big way, in an expensive way. But there are ways that you can do it, like we just said, through Slack, Facebook, potentially WhatsApp, where you could experiment with that. And Snapchat, if your audience is you know, you can have Snapchat groups if your audience is that age. So,
and one thing actually that did come out, which is maybe more of a future trend, but people are already starting to talk about it. But I think it's particularly interesting with a lot of you guys being self-formulators, so you've kind of got the capability of doing this, is personalisation. So they were kind of talking about this being more of a longer term view, but there's brands like, there's a hair care brand called Prose, which I actually haven't heard of, and it was just around consumers are starting to become a lot more interested in skincare and hair care and all different beauty products that are personalised to their specific requirements. And I think where you possibly are self-formulating or you're doing things in smaller production runs, you might actually have that kind of facility or that ability to be able to do that, which I think is a massive advantage over some of the bigger kind of corporate players, because their whole business model is built on, you know, economies of scale and like volume driven products, and they aren't able to react. So I think, you know, it's interesting to have a look at how you could factor that in, I guess, from a technology and website perspective, and obviously kind of a formulation perspective, but it's definitely something to start thinking about.
Yeah, and I mean that comes into another trend that was coming through in that we have the two kind of big macro things that are coming through is obviously climate change, but the other one is that our technology is really, really advancing. And so there was a big talk about how can you harness the power of technology to, I guess, add, she called it magic and alchemy to your brand. And even as smaller, more independent brands, there are ways to do it. She talked about one in particular, I can't remember her name, I'll dig it out and I'll let you know, who was so frustrated with the filters that she was seeing on Instagram, the bunny ears and the silly things like that, that she went out and had a whole load of her own filters designed, which were based on art techniques. So she was able to make you become more of to sort of be more portrait or different art, sort of modern art and things. And she'd got these, I will dig that out, guys, and I'll find that for you. But she was giving people the opportunity to use filters that were just a bit more sophisticated and a bit more interesting and actually focused on being beautiful as opposed to being silly. And, you know, what, you know, are there opportunities that where you can sort of use a little bit of technology to help yourself? And again, don't sort of just say, oh, I can't afford that. You know, just have a look at the ideas that are out there. I'm just going to say hello to a few people who are joining in because I'm so conscious there. So Lucia, hello. I think Mohammed's still here. I've seen that Steph's here. Renna has just come in as well. Some of you, oh, and Ita was here as well. So I know Renna and Ita, you've been here at In Cosmetics because I've seen you. So it's great to see you. If you've got any questions on what we've said, do just sort of put them in, because we've got loads of information and we could probably talk forever, which is quite dangerous.
And also getting back to that point on technology and the expense and everything like that, you know, there's a lot to be said around engaging with maybe younger people that have got those skill sets. So I've actually just brought on an intern into my business. Paid intern, obviously you need to pay your interns. I know there's been questions on that from other people, but her skill set is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you know, they're digital natives, like, you know,
they speak a different language to us.
Speak a different language.
Yeah.
21 at uni and can do video editing and all sorts of things. So, you know, if you want your own GIFs or filters, I think there's more than kind of one way. You don't necessarily have to pay like expensive agency fees. I think get out there and have a conversation.
Yeah, and that's reminded me of a good example, because Formula Botanica did it last year, didn't they, with their GIFs? They sort of, you know, they outsourced it and found a specialist who designed them, all the amazing GIFs that you guys have been using. And that's really, really interesting. And not overly expensive. And I think you can probably go on things like Fiverr even.
Steph's on her way home.
Oh, bless you. Love it. Thanks, Steph. But, you know, there are ways. And actually, we went to a panel discussion where there was Sam Farmer, who's the founder of Sam Farmer Skincare. There was 001 Skincare, and there was Dominelsi from By-B. And one of the things that Sam Farmer, when asked for a really key thing, advice that he could give to brands that were starting out and growing, one of the key things he said was to invest in the best that you can afford, and to really try and you know, push forward and make wise decisions and go for the best, and don't sort of cut the corners, because it will stand you in good stead. So just because you think maybe sometimes these things are maybe beyond you, or you're a bit scared, just ask about, use your networks. Actually, they may be easier for you to achieve. And sometimes investing a little bit of money in something that others aren't doing could really make a difference for you. So yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah. Brilliant. I'm waiting to see whether we get any questions.
Yeah, someone give us a question. You can do it.
Yeah, the Formula, Lucia's saying the Formula Botanica GIFs are really amazing. And you're all using them. That's the power of them. They created something that you have really enjoyed. Very similar to different
and
filters.
You're also actually spreading the message of their brand for them. You know, you're kind of becoming advocates for them, which is exactly what a great brand does. By the way, this is orange juice. It's actually not anything alcohol.
Not yet. We're hoping that we may go and climb the Eiffel Tower tonight. We don't know. We're not. We're sort of just hanging out tonight. Depends how many questions we get. Really. Just going to go and hang out tonight. I mean, we may climb the Eiffel Tower. But watch both of our stories on Instagram, because we've been bringing you. This is kind of like our highlight show. But if you go and have a look at our stories, you'll see our best. You know, the best bits live, and we've been updating you live throughout the day on both of our stories. So go and have a look, because they're well worth seeing. And I'm sure both of us will be creating a stack of content off the back of this for you. I know my mind is buzzing with everything that I need to get across to you through it. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to finish on was from Sam Farmer, because he said something really, really cool. And he was just talking about, I guess, the power of independent brands, and it goes back to that agility thing that we were talking about. And he described the big brands as being a bit like oil tankers, in that they take a hell of a long time to slow down and stop change direction. And in the time that those big brands are taking to slow down and stop and change direction, people like you are making the changes.
In a nifty little speedboat.
Yeah, you are just like nipping in there. And I think that's a really positive a really positive message to take away. There has been so much talk about indie, actually. We haven't said that. Yeah. In cosmetics, previously has been quite focused on, I've always felt it wasn't necessarily an indie environment. This year, indie is buzzing. There's been an indie panel, there's been a specific indie trail which takes you around manufacturers who, Gemma's gone to get it. You've got hold of the gold dust.
I've got 2 babes. Give you one.
These have been very scarce. It's been that popular that we haven't been able to get hold of these indie trails. But they've had, so you can go around and speak to manufacturers and suppliers who are specifically dealing with lower MOQs. So
it just had like a map of the exhibition hall, and as Rachel said, it just highlighted the manufacturers, the raw ingredients suppliers that are able to do small batches, which obviously is super important for anyone kind of formulating on a smaller scale. So they're really kind of
it's been buzzing. The talk of indie brands and the power of indie brands has been buzzing. And I think for a massive show like this, to take time out to dedicate to this, and I was talking to Imogen Matthews after the Indie Beauty panel talk, and she was saying this is a focus that they've got. and that this is something that is developing. So that's quite exciting. So for those of you who haven't got this one on your calendar, next year it's in Barcelona. Who wouldn't want to go? And it's well worth putting it in your calendar. It's always around this time of year, and it's free, guys. I'm going to tell you that again. INCOS is free. Yeah. And every single presentation that Gemma and I have been to in the last 2 days, we have not paid for them. And they're free.
So amazing.
So you just need to get here. Just get here and get yourself a lovely apartment on Airbnb like we have. And get here. This is a really, really good conference or exhibition for indie brands to come to. I feel like we should be being paid by them. Do you?
Yeah. This is not sponsored.
We're not being sponsored, but I think maybe we should be.
We're open to any offers. If anyone from In Cosmetics is watching.
If you're watching In Cosmetics, we're good at this. We'll go live for you. You can employ us to just go live, going around the whole thing. So it's end of day 2. It's day 3 tomorrow. I will. I think. Are you going home?
No, I'm doing day 3 tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Will we be able to do a live, or are you?
Oh yeah, we'll have to do it from the show.
We'll try and do. We'll try and come on together and do a live again tomorrow for you.
Should we just tell them what we're going to be looking at tomorrow?
Yes. I haven't got a clue. It's been so exciting.
Here we go. So we've got our little agenda. So which ones of these are you going to?
I'm definitely going. So first up tomorrow for me is tech and digital, of course. How is tech and digital going to influence the beauty landscape? I can't wait for that.
She loves a bit of tech, this girl does.
I love that side of things. And then what else have we got? Retailing online, disruption and... I can't even read that word.
Disruption and disintermediation.
Yeah,
I'll have to get the dictionary out because I don't know what that means. I'm also going to go to some sustainability talks. So the future of clean, I think that should be quite interesting. And then one with Joe Chidley, as I mentioned before,
the beauty kitchen. Yeah.
Going back to the future, sustainable is the new natural in beauty. So sustainable, again, bringing it full circle.
I'm going to do consumable skincare, and then the last talk of the day looked like it's on veganism in beauty, which I'll probably go to as well. So there's still loads more.
Yeah, so there'll be lots more to come.
Loads more
to come. Tuned, and please let us know if you've got any questions.
Yeah, just put them in.
And actually, if you've got any questions overnight, we can obviously have a look at things for tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we're together. So it has been absolutely awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching on Catch Up. Stay peeled. Stick with our stories because we're bringing you all the best bits live, and then we do a highlights show. So do stay tuned to those stories because they're really quite cool. And you'll see how many people we meet as well. Bumping into loads of people. It's been wonderful. Okay, guys. Loads of indie hugs and love. Oh yeah, sorry. Bonsoir. Au revoir. Au revoir. Bonsoir.